Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
All right, back for another Donut Shop podcast in New Jersey. Thanks to Counterculture Inc. for a fun weekend so far. Getting ready to go over to the live show. It is Saturday, April 5th, but this episode is going to air in a couple weeks. But I'm sitting here hanging out in the room with my boy John Trowbridge. Yep. He is we've been friends for many years, and he's hanging out this weekend. But I wanted him to come on and talk about a few things. You're not as active now, but a volunteer fireman for your local town or where you live.
Yes, Oceanside.
And then Oceanside
volunteer fire department.
And then but additionally you're retiring in a few weeks from sanitation. So you're also a garbage man.
Yep.
Yeah, so but I want to talk to you. We'll talk about that a little bit, but with almost the backdrop, really that direction from the cameras of Ground Zero, John was a fireman during 9/11, and you went in support of the follow-up, the cleanup, the days after, the months after the time.
Yeah, I was in the second day, literally the day after the collapse, so we all went in as volunteers.
Yeah. So when you're, we'll go over volunteer firefighting a little bit, but before that, let's, talk about kind of 9/11 with that like kind of scenario and like everything, like what you were doing when you were there. Like you come over from Long Island and you were telling me yesterday just about how like you guys were really just there supporting the roles that FDNY was doing, right?
Yeah, we were pretty much there just to help clean up. I was working the day of, so I didn't get to go in, but the second day I happened to be off, so a bunch of guys that went the first day, we're going back the second day. We basically just grabbed our gear off our racks at our firehouses. At that point, there was no structure on what was actually going on with the volunteers and the city fire department to help out. So we were pretty much allowed to grab our gear, go in and lend a hand, help do what we could. So probably about that, the day I was in, like 12 of us all hopped in our cars, drove into the city, had to park like 20, 30 blocks away and just schlumped our way down here in our bunker gear.
You said you saw like Con Ed trucks, like power trucks?
Yeah, actually when we came through, after they had blocked off, a Con Ed truck was like coming down the road and saw us all walking. He was like, if you're going down, just jump on the back. So we were basically just like jumped in the back of the truck. Yeah. There's a platform. We were hanging off the back of the platform, kind of like a fire truck. They brought us as close as we can get. And we basically reported to the main area, and they were like, all right, you guys are going to go there, you go there. We basically grabbed buckets and just lined up and became part of the bucket brigade literally right away.
Because that's kind of how they were working the recovery cleanup.
Yeah, they were. It was basically trying to get some of the small debris out of the way so they can get to the bigger debris. If there was anything that could be like identifying people in the buckets, there was people separating and stuff like that. So
wow. And they just, you guys just are there. They know you're firemen, you got uniforms on. Yep. But there was, how many people were you seeing?
Oh, there was hundreds.
Working.
Yeah, there was like, we had, where we were all lined up, basically a bucket brigade. They were just passing stuff down. If it fit in the bucket, you'd get past the bucket. If it was bigger, you would just pass it. And then it literally, probably like 150 people on that, just trying to move stuff around. Then you had the law enforcement with their search dogs going through and making sure nothing was identifiable.
Yeah, doing and then with fire too, the urban search and rescue type stuff. So you guys were there just support and labor, hands on deck, getting everybody in there. How long did you balance back and forth between your shift, or like what would you say you were there for? Couple weeks doing it, or
I was only there for the day after, because after like the first 2 or 3 days, that's when they wanted to make it more like structured. Mm-hmm. So they basically, our firehouses got requested. There was a staging area. A crew would go to that staging area, and as people needed breaks, the fire department officially was like brought in. Like the first few days,
it was just rogue.
It was just us saying, hey, this is what we do. We grabbed our gear and just really on our own. And, you know, the department, our local department, and pretty much all of the volunteer departments in our area, pretty much, you know, go do what you got to do, go help.
Yeah.
And then once it got structured, then it was like, all right, crew. And you basically did a standby for that. But up until then, it was basically just like, let's go do something instead of sitting here.
Yeah, you can't just sit here and watch it on TV.
No,
like, we're right there.
You're watching it on the news, and you're watching as everything's going, and it's like, and then you actually get here and like inside, and truly humbling. Like you're looking around, going, "Holy crap! What the hell?"
Yeah, the magnitude of the situation.
Like you're standing on top of it. There's literally smoke still coming, and everything like that. So yeah, it was totally different. Like it's hard to even explain to somebody because what they showed on the news really was just simple compared to what it actually
the yeah.
Yeah, to be in here in the square.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And John has a book with him of photos. Because tell him the story about the book with the photos.
Yeah, so basically our little group that came in, we had disposable cameras, and we just took photos just from the first 2 days. And one of our guys had them all developed, got the binders, put all the photos in the binder. And pretty much our only rule with the photos were we're not profiting off of it. It's just for our personal remembrance and like documentation of what we did and what we saw. So basically, I think it's something like 50 photo album or something like that. That, you know, I was able to give that to my kids because my oldest was 2 years old at the time. So when they started teaching that in high school, junior high, whenever it was, you know, I would send the book in. The teachers would like look at it, send letters home. Thank you so much for sharing this. You know, so it was like a learning experience for my kids down the road too, to see like what I did and everything.
I mean,
else.
and it really was. It was from Dad's eyes.
Yeah,
like it was.
exactly.
It's through your eyes. Like this was actually happening. It's not a journalistic photographer or whatever. Like this is like you guys on the ground, and you just have the easy disposable
cameras,
throwaway
Like,
camera.
nothing fancy, just plastic camera.
If it gets crushed, it gets crushed
That's it.
because you guys are working. But if you got a chance to snap something and
pulled it out of the side pocket of the bunker gear and took photos when we could, when we were walking in and walking out. And like I said, it was definitely humbling. And like even at the end of our workday, because I think we were here for like 10 hours.
That was another question. Was what your days like?
We were here for like 10 hours, probably both days, each day, and then we were leaving. And once you get outside the quarantine zone that they had blocked off, like we're now in our bunker gear. We've been doing it for 10 hours, and like people just coming out of the restaurants. Hey, you guys hungry? You want something? Like offering us food. So even that was like humbling. Like after a day's work, people like, here, eat, like Chinese food places, Mexican, just trying to, no, we're good. We'll take a water though. You know, they give us water. You sure you don't want nothing to eat? No. I mean, we probably could have filled a shopping cart with all the food that they were like just trying to give us. But no, it seemed that like everybody was willing, even if they weren't here working, they were trying to help you out as you walked out if you were working, which was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it really came together. You know, like America really came together, and I'm sure being here in the epicenter of that was probably tenfold. What anybody would have seen across the country,
and even all the outside non-local fire departments that like drove 5 or 6 hours in their rigs to come here to be part of that staging area. Also, like it really is crazy.
Yeah, I know one of the guys that I worked with. He's retired now, but he was FDNY for a long time. But he was a detective for us at the time. He jumped on an Amtrak and took it up with and had some, just put on some basic gear. He had his old bunker gear, and he was there doing the bucket brigade stuff. It's people came from all over to help out, and they do come from all over. Like I know down in South Florida, we had the Surfside building collapse, and you had an Israeli urban search and rescue team come from Israel to help out and just rotate through with the local South Florida urban search and rescue teams. So worked with them, or those guys. People come from all over. It's unfortunate to have to get that experience, in that, but it's invaluable training for those units and organizations that do the work to either help rescue people or at least recover people and help out with the situation, especially because, like the people local, they're also dealing with the effect of seeing this, seeing what happened and knowing what happened, but then you've still got a job to do. So it's insane. And so we all deal with that as, first responder type stuff. It's like, this is my home, this is my backyard.
Yep. And you see, not just like 9/11, look what just happened in California with the fires, with the fire departments and the police departments and the search teams. Everybody came from all the neighboring areas with their rigs, drove hours. I think one group drove like 11 hours to get there.
Yeah.
So you look at like stuff like that, and as a first responder, that's what you do. Like fire department, you go in. You're not running away, you go in. Same with law enforcement. You're going in. You want to help out. So
yeah, I've gone to like hurricane recovery, like days after the hurricanes hit, and go out there and do the work, do the communication, help with and then like my department, we've helped with just traffic lights that are down, just aiding all that, because like with hurricanes, the local officers are dealing with trees going through their homes, so they're maybe not able to go to shift, so we're supplementing their forces until they can really get back on their feet and do their thing. So it's a crazy thing. And last night we were out there with a lot of the guys from Counterculture at Ground Zero and checking it out. Like I'd been there earlier in the day, walking around, just kind of feeling it and feeling the memorial and everything. It's a beautiful place. So we were out there, had a couple drinks and had a good time and hung out with each other. It was a good night. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm sure that there's many of us that are aging and we've thought about hormone replacement therapy. I've visited my doctors and discussed it, and I'm still kind of on the fence and not really sure what I want to do. But now I think I've kind of found it, and I know that we could all use a boost of testosterone in our life. Well, check out the best in the game, Human Performance Team. It connects you with doctors via telehealth, and you could submit your labs that you've maybe already been done, or you can get fresh ones done. They offer a variety of services like primary care, urgent care, weight loss, and even mental health. We all know that, these jobs weigh on us and our mental health. Jump over to hptrt.com and use the code DSP for a continuous discount. Use the code DSP and get on a road to better health. Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to let you know I have a new website format. Same website, donutshoppodcast.com, but this time I'm running it through Shopify. Make it much easier to purchase items because aside from the hats that I have up there, Donut Shop Podcast, PVC hats, the blue line snapback, laser mesh, nice and clean on the inside, comfy hats. I have some other swag, t-shirts, can koozies, just some other stuff that I put up there. I'm running the website through Shopify, and so it'll make it real easy for you guys to go on and purchase some stuff and support the show. So thanks for tuning in and following the show, and don't forget, donutshoppodcast.com. Thanks. All right, we're back, and so with the volunteer firefighting, like we don't see a lot of it in South Florida, although one of my neighboring jurisdictions does have volunteer firefighters. But up here, it's more prevalent on like Long Island where you live and stuff. What got you started in that? Because you say you're also in sanitation, so you were already working that before fire. What made it right? Yeah,
so I started sanitation probably in '89 is when I started, and a large majority of the guys that worked at sanitation were already volunteer firemen. Oh. So
it was just a cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to do. And they're like, yo, come on, do this. And then they were like, another part of the volunteer fire department is their fire department racing teams, where like you can probably Google videos of New York FD racing, and it's actually pretty cool. It's like our recreational part, and they build super crazy trucks, but they were like, yo, come on in. So, you take your almost not as, I guess, as, I'm trying to think of the word, intense training as going in, let's say, the New York City Fire Department, where they at the academy, you got to do a bunch, but we do have training programs. You have to take a couple of classes to like familiarize you with, everything about firefighting. And then we have like in Bethpage on the island, we actually have a town set up, kind of like the city's training facility, where they have a taxpayer, which is a row of stores. They have a 4-story building where they do buildings where you have to drop a standpipe and bring the hose up and stuff like that. They also have like mock basement fire. So we do all that stuff. We have to go through a box totally blindfolded to get familiar with going through. And then after you get that, you get put on 6 months probation, and then you become a Class A fireman. And then now you're allowed to actually ride the trucks, go into fires. Otherwise, as you're a Class B, you're not allowed in. You're basically the hydrant guy. But you have your own firehouses, monthly meetings. You talk business because volunteer firehouses, most of the fire companies own their house, so the district will pay you rent to keep your trucks there, but everything else to keep that building going is on you. So you do fundraisers, whether it's like a miniature golf outing or football boxes to like watch Sunday football and stuff like that, or just open up, get together and do a little like selling American flags on the corner.
Shirts.
T-shirts, just to bring money into the firehouse so you can pay your bills, because electric and all that is on us, and the district only covers so much of that. So, like I said, we get toned out. You have your little pager, call comes in because we're volunteer, we're at our house, and then you respond to your quarters. Once you have a chauffeur and 2 guys on the rig, then the rig can roll. So basically you respond to the firehouse and you go from there.
What would you say that like the time, like on an average would be? You get the page, and when are you guys like rolling out the door?
Well, it honestly, like we have in Oceanside, for example, we have I think 7 firehouses. I think we used to have a rescue, but the rescue got dissolved, and now our EMTs are now paid. So because they couldn't get the people to take the EMT classes, so basically everybody that usually joins a specific firehouse in the department lives in the vicinity of that firehouse.
Okay.
So really, like for me, when I lived in Oceanside, I joined the South Side because it was the closest firehouse to me. But then when I moved to Baldwin, because I'm in a neighboring town, I'm still allowed to be active in that firehouse. So for me, without traffic, probably take me 6 minutes to get, but we have people that live like 2 minutes. So we can get out in like 3 minutes by the time the chauffeur and you got enough crew to leave safely. Okay. And then you just respond to the call. Like I said, we all have the pagers, so we get toned out, you go, and that's pretty much it.
It's like a fire neighborhood watch.
Pretty much, yeah. Like we'll do like neighborhood things where like we'll set up like a barbecue, and people that live in the neighborhood by a firehouse, we can do like a hot dog thing or something like that, get people involved, and then pretty much try to get more people to join. And get
like a little recruiting mission.
It's all about getting the people to join. So I guess eventually, if you don't get the interest, especially like it seems nowadays, all like the volunteer fire department, the enthusiasm to join isn't like the enthusiasm was like when I got in. Like
80s,
you wanted
90s.
to be a fireman, like you were into it. But now it seems like technology and all that stuff and life. It just seems like the drive to actually join isn't there anymore. So that's like probably the hardest part with the volunteers is getting the people to actually come down to the firehouse, learn about it, take the classes. I mean, they're time consuming, but I mean, you learn so much. I mean, you could technically join the volunteer fire department and they'll put you through the EMT classes and the AMT classes. I forget what the other one is, but yeah, so you can actually get all that training also on the dime of your district. So you can learn stuff. Like we just restarted our juniors program. As a junior, once you can't join the fire department until you're 18. You can join the juniors younger, but I believe once you turn 17, you could apply for the EMT. So you could still be in high school, not able to join the fire department and start your EMT program, and then transition to the fire department and be already certified.
Oh, sure.
So it's like I said, I've enjoyed it. I'm now, because I'm no longer active, I'm an associate member. So I basically house duty guy, but I still go to my meetings. I still go to the firehouse to help out with like basic stuff that needs. I just don't get on the rigs anymore.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much basically where I'm at with the volunteers now.
No, it's freaking cool. I know. Like when I was younger, guys were doing like when they were just they were trying to get paid or they were trying to get full. They would go after the fire academy and go work at volunteer fire departments and have other jobs and stuff. But that was how they kind of got their foot in the door to do the job. So all right, that's cool.
Well, like with the fire department now, they've initiated what's called like the LOSAP program. So for every year of service you have, you make a certain amount of calls, you make a certain amount of meetings, you do trainings, you get a point system. I believe it's 20 points a year or 30 points a year, might be higher. If you get those points within a calendar year, you get a service credit. And then let's say after 30 years of service, you can max out, I think it's not much, but it's like, let's say $600 a month. And then when you become retirement age, you could apply to call up the phone company or the company, and they will actually give you, like, start the payments, and they'll start collecting, like, kind of like an extra little bonus, like $600 a month.
Little pension.
It's a little weekend vacation. So it's their way of giving back. And they give you other programs like the local community colleges. They'll give you, like, discounts. You can go, like, up maybe free up to a year. I forget how the program works. But if you're, like, people coming out of high school that want to join, it helps you get into the college, like if it's a local college, and like helps you out that way just to keep you in and give you like an incentive.
And so it's volunteer, but it's not volunteer for free. You're getting paid when you're doing.
If you make your points every year, yeah.
But like during the month, you're not getting.
No.
It's just.
Yep.
It's a hobby.
It's all about pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's about you getting to the firehouse, making the call.
So okay, if you get hurt or injured, does it?
We're covered. You're covered by New York State compensation.
Okay.
So you will get like whatever, like our firehouse, let's say the department has an insurance policy where kind of like AFLAC.
Okay.
Where if you get hurt, you could not only go on New York State compensation, but you also get AFLAC. So because compensation doesn't pay much, but the AFLAC, let's say, makes up for the difference because now you're out of your own job.
And if you're hurt, like for you, if you got hurt working the fire and then you can't get on the truck for sanitation, you've got to supplement your income.
Right. So I could freeze my sick time at sanitation because I'm now on compensation with the fire department, and like between the compensation and the supplemental insurance policy the department holds for you, it kind of like keeps you where your pay should be. Not really, but you could pay your bills.
It's better than nothing.
Right. Yeah. And like if you do get hurt with the fire department and you can't make your bills, pretty much every volunteer fire department, I believe, has what they call the volunteers exempts. And it's basically you pay a $6 a month fee, and it's basically they have money, so you can, if you're in trouble, you can go to them and say, hey, I'm having trouble this month, and they have like I forget how much in the bank, and they'll be like, yeah, we can help you out. For example, we had a laundromat explosion, and what happened was the guys were actually going in to entry, and there were no signs on the building saying that they were storing propane tanks. In the door. So they opened up the door not knowing what was on the other side of the door, and basically those tanks ignited, and it actually third degree, like seriously burnt like 15 firemen going in, like through their gear and everything. They were in hospitals for months. So, they were like going through the burn treatment, skin grafts. So now the exempts like helped them out with their bills because now it was going to be longer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
So they do try to take care of you and make you want to be there. So it's just not like, oh, you get hurt, you're going to lose money at your job. So there's ways to like keep you engaged.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like I said, in South Florida, it's not very prevalent, but there's at least one place locally that I know that does that, and I think they've got a little bit different system, but it's pretty cool, and because it's a lot to fund a fire department, it's a lot to fund a police department, that kind of stuff. So. Sometimes you got to have the public service like that. So, all right, we're going to take one more break, and then we'll be right back to talk sanitation.
There we go.
So that's why I built InkMD, to address a niche, a very real need for medical grade wound care for real wounds. Tattoos are real wounds. I don't understand why we continue to treat them differently. There's just nobody's bridged that gap yet. We're talking about relatively superficial trauma to the skin. The quicker it heals, the better. especially with tattoos, because the amount of ink that's retained in your skin is dependent on that healing process. Real science, real medicine, with a very ancient and very personal art form.
Jump over inkmd.com and use DSP15 when you want to make a purchase. All right, we're back, and that was a great commercial. And so, so sanitation, the garbage man, what I once put on my old Facebook profile when I first started police work was garbage man. And then I had a senior guy tell me, take that shit off your Facebook. Like, it's probably not a safe thing to put if people look at your Facebook for law enforcement. But you, sir,
Yes.
are a real garbage man.
Yes, I am.
Did you ever meet Oscar the Grouch?
I have not.
Okay. He lives not far from here, supposedly.
It could possibly be.
Aren't they in the Bronx? Where's Sesame Street? Long Island City.
City.
There's another guy sitting in here that's off camera. His name's John as well. So you started that in 89 time or
89, yep.
89, and coming up on the retirement time here in April.
Yes, sir.
So congratulations.
Yes.
And but it's so not Manhattan or New York, because we've had this conversation before, but it's not like the city sanitation.
Right.
You work for
I work for technically the town of Hempstead, so it's
Town of
it's a
Hempstead.
Nassau County sanitation district, and then there's like Incorporated Villages has their own, but we're affiliated with the town of Hempstead, which is the town we all live in. So,
it's a government agency. It's not a private company, because like in South Florida we have private companies, Waste Management or whatever the blue truck is. You know, we've got these.
we're run by we're I guess overseen by the state.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of like not independent, but we're like a subdivision of the town of Hempstead.
Mm-hmm.
We're considered a special district, but we're taxpayer funded, so we supply a service to our neighborhood and we pick up everybody's garbage.
What made you want to do that?
Honestly, I wasn't really supposed to be going. That wasn't my list.
You walked in the wrong door?
No, I had a bad recruiter. Basically, what that came down to, I was all set, took my test and everything. Was supposed to go into the Navy, and
It's quite the difference.
It was like literally ready to sign the paperwork and take my physical. And like I said, I got introduced to the head recruiter, and he was just nasty, miserable. Made me like literally walk out of the recruiting center
For the Navy?
For the Navy,
Okay.
yeah. Like literally walked out, and I was like,
You look like a sailor.
I grew up, like back in the day in this area, we actually, instead of the Boy Scouts, we had the JBA, which was a Navy-based organization. So, like at age of
like the Sea Scouts.
yes, they were like a subsidiary of the Sea Scouts, but like the New York area. So I was part of that for like 8 years, like learning ropes and flag symbol and all that stuff. So it was something I wanted to do, and a lot of my family was in it, so I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And the high school I went to in Oceanside where I work, our mascot was a sailor. We were the Oceanside Sailors, so it was like great. And that might have been the point where I was like, yeah. He made a comment. My recruiter was like, oh, let me see your class ring. I took the class ring off. He was like, oh, look, his ring even says the Sailors. And the head recruiter goes, he doesn't deserve to wear that effing ring. I was like, whoa. And then he's like, listen, your boss is using your parents. I was like, I'm done. I walked out, and by the time I got home by bus, the regular recruiter was at my house waiting for me. He's like, I apologize. I'm like, no, man, I'm done. And luckily I knew some people at Oceanside Sanitation, and like 2 weeks later I started working.
Yeah.
And that was it. Started my
Just kind of fell in your lap.
Yeah. Worked the back of the truck because we are old school laborers. We're on the back of the truck. We're bringing the pails from the curb to the truck, dumping them. Like, we don't have those arms and stuff that does the work for you.
Yeah.
And I did that for years. Probably about 10 years ago, I got my CDL. Slowly moved up the CDL list. Last 4 years, I've been pretty much driving routes with the guys on the back. So,
Nice.
35 years comes, turned 55 in a couple of weeks, and everything lined up, and I'm like, it's time to go.
What's the best parts of the job?
Hours, great hours, especially like when you're younger and you have kids, getting out of work early enough where you can spend time with the kids.
Yeah, you're done. You're almost on like at least for dismissal time for the school. You're out of the school.
Oh yeah,
You're out
I'm
of
out
work.
before school.
Yeah.
You know, I'm out early enough, and like working local, and being able to get days off. You know, I was able to do class trips with my kids. Like pretty cool being like one of the only dads being able to go on a class trip. So it all worked out.
Did you ever get to do career day?
I did not do career day.
Oh, okay.
No, that was yeah. I guess garbage men weren't high on the
I
priority.
don't know. I always feel like in the TV shows and stuff like that when they show career day.
I don't know if they even do that anymore.
They do, but God, as like a SRO, it was always like they'd come to us and they're like, "Can you bring out the whole police department?" And so there's like 4 stations of police department.
Right.
It's like, here's the traffic motor unit, here's the SWAT team, here's the command. But it's like we're basically showing the same job, but different roles in the same career field, And then it's like the one school I was at, like one of the guys worked the Secret Service, so he would bring the South Florida, whatever they call it, the Beast, the big limo. There's one in South Florida, and this was like before Trump, so it was, it got used, but probably not as much as it does now. And so he'd bring it out there and park it, and they'd show the kids that. So it's like, okay, law enforcement, and then there was like 5 other professions.
Yeah.
So I'd try to tell them, like, see if we can find some other professions, like teach these kids about other things in life. But okay, so what you liked was the schedule. The schedule was good,
schedule. And the fines, because it really is amazing what people throw out.
the fines. Okay, so
I mean, like, I'm going to say when eBay first started, eBay was good. Because, we have side bins on the truck, so, you found something cool, threw it in the side bin, you throw it up on eBay, made a couple extra bucks. Or, like, for old wood furniture and stuff, bring it home to sell it, and wife be like, "No, I like that piece." Friends will be like, "Yo, I'm looking for this," and like, "All right, cool. If I come across it, I'll let you know." Like a week later, "Yo, dude, that chair you were looking for, I got one on the side.
Yeah.
You want it? I'll bring it over." It's like, "Yeah, sure." So, so you'd find some cool stuff, and
hell yeah,
makes it fun.
yeah. What's the worst part of the job?
What people throw out.
The best part is what people throw out, and the worst part is people
because
throw out.
some people just put stuff in their pails that, like, going up to a house, like it's hunting season, you open up the garbage pail,
Yeah.
and there's like a deer carcass looking at you, so you're like opening it up. We don't have a really big rat area, so that wasn't ever an issue.
Yeah.
Probably the worst stop, we had a fish market, and during the summer, between the smell of that and watching it move like that from all the things that the flies left.
the bugs, the maggots.
Yeah, maggots, brutal. But
We had a case where the guy killed his wife. She was small, or his girlfriend. She was small, and he was able to fit her in one of the bins. He put her in a trash bag in the garage, put her in a trash bag, put her in a bin, and pushed it out, and it got picked up. And so in Broward, we incinerate. And so they figured out, and like the company knows exactly where in the pile, like this day's worth of stuff. So they moved what was above it, because it was a few weeks after, because she was kind of listed as a missing person for, a few days. And then they finally got this guy admitted to what he did. And she'd been incinerated, and well, per his story. And so they went through, and they were just combing through, trying to excavate and find any sort of evidence, DNA evidence, bone fragments, something. So that was a pretty crazy case. But so putting bodies into trash cans.
yeah, before I started, they would dump in a landfill. When I got there, they had stopped, and same thing, incinerator.
Yeah.
You get done with your route, you drive to the scale, they'll weigh you, you loop around. There's like a tailgate thing, a screen, a number comes up, you pull into the building, it's all like 15 bays, you back up to the bay, but they keep track of, like I said, what truck pulled into what bay. And then they basically recycle the energy. They have a part of the power authority right next to it, so they burn it, whatever power that produces, they funnel it right into the power system, and like, I guess, make a deal with the power company to sell them the power that they're making. So, but yeah, it's basically, once you pull in there though, I mean, unless, it's not like said, you're incinerating it, you're backing up, but there's a huge lip, 3 monster claws that are like, probably could pick up one of our trucks easily. And the bulldozers push it over the cliff, it drops down, big cranes pick it up. So we're pretty much incinerating too. So
Wow.
once it gets into that pit, I think it would be hard to see.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's nobody actually there looking. It's just guys in bulldozers just pushing the stuff up. So
Yeah, and then it's getting just blended together.
Crane into the crane area. So
fucking crazy. It's crazy stuff. So you're like Ghostbusters, but with trash.
yeah, pretty much.
You're just locking it in. Yeah. So, all right. Well, cool, bro. I want to just do a quick episode with you
thanks for having me, man.
and shoot the shit. You know,
Hell yeah.
like a little donut shop podcast. So,
man.
Yeah, we got donuts.
Got donuts,
Still,
and they're real.
These ones are actually real. So we got to get ready anyways and get over to the Counterculture live event. Hopefully by the time this airs, you guys have seen some fun shenanigans from tonight's affair. So so thank you, John. And and I'll throw his Instagram down there or something like that. He's not a huge public figure with websites and stuff, but he's a buddy. So,
Behind the scenes.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Later.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.